What is going on, all of you hoverboard aficionados and indie gamers out there in the world? I am Mega Am, so thank you for watching this video. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you stopping by. And today, amidst all the Switch 2 discussions, of course, that's the big thing to talk about, but I wanted to talk about an upcoming indie game that is releasing in just 3 days as of this recording on the original Nintendo Switch, and that is the game Star Overdrive. Now, this is coming from the publisher Dear Villagers, and the developer is Caracal Games. I could be mispronouncing that. But I wanted to give you 5 reasons why you might be interested in checking this game out. I know Switch 2 is the big discussion, but there are still some games coming out for the Nintendo Switch in the near future, including this game that has really caught my attention. So let's go get into the 5 reasons here. But the first reason here, as I say with most of these games, for me is art style. Art style is such a big factor for me when it comes to especially indie games, just to see how unique they look. And this game just oozes style. I mean, it's very flashy, very colorful, has kind of that cell shaded look to it, and just it's not the most amazing visual looker, especially being on the Nintendo Switch, but it looks pretty good in the style that it's at. And just the very colorful environments. A lot of this game's focus is on vistas and environmental details, and so just to see the amount of color in the background here is fantastic. So I wanted to talk about that, and I guess to tie this into general presentation as well. Shout out to the music. The Star Overdrive Band is working on the music for this game, and if you like the sound of that, it kind of reminds me of Eidos Montreal's Guardians of the Galaxy game, if you remember that. If you like the kind of rock and roll vibe, kind of light rock there, it's kind of that vibe, which I personally appreciate. And so it's cool to see the game kind of have that motif with, the guitar that our character uses as well for attacking and stuff. So the presentation, cassette player, this is such my vibe. I love it. And the art style, just in terms of look at these vistas, even on the Switch 1, this looks amazing. Obviously, you're going to have only a certain amount of detail with the draw distance and stuff on the Switch 1, but it looks really, really good for the platform in motion. Everything's so colorful and vibrant, and the music just adds to that sense of adventure and adds some energy to it. So definitely the presentation is one of the many reasons to check this game out. Of course, number 2, being a game, we got to talk about the gameplay. What really caught my eye here was the hoverboarding, as I'm sure it did for a lot of you when it first showed up in a Nintendo Direct sometime in 2024. I forget when exactly. It's so fun. I've played the demo, not the whole way through the demo, but I played maybe the first 20 minutes of the demo. And one thing I just love doing, I could have progressed with the missions. They have different missions you do in the game in order to start off. Essentially, you're trying to find pretty much the remnants of this lost crew and this person who you're somewhat connected with. Not sure how that happens, but I'm sure that'll be mentioned in the story. But you can see here just the different gameplay. Just the hoverboarding is really what got me. Just being able to explore these environments on a fast, just at such a fast pace is really, really cool. And it runs at 30 frames, and you might be oh, 30 frames for this kind of game. I don't know. I was a little hesitant at first, but after playing the demo, I can say confidently this game feels really good to play in 30 frames per second as well. So even if you're a little bit hesitant at frame rate like me, this is definitely a good version to play. But yeah, the hoverboarding is super duper fun, doing tricks in the air, going off different jumps like you see on the sand dunes, riding off these walls and doing all sorts of tricks and stuff. It's so fun in motion. It's as fun as it looks. The combat is there too as well. I will say the demo, the combat was a little basic, but I imagine it's going to unlock more and more as you progress through the game. But there is combat there with your guitar. There seems to be some puzzle solving that I here you see I did not mess around with at all in the demo at all, but there's also some platforming with the jetpack you have. It kind of gives me it. I hate to make this comparison, but it feels like a futuristic Breath of the Wild with a hoverboard, and honestly, that's enough to sell me. That's a cool idea, going around these vistas, these areas, and collecting resources on this planet, and also, so taking it slow, a little slower in those moments to really explore and have combat, but also to hop on your hoverboard and just fly off and just do all sorts of tricks, go through rings. There seems to be some sort of race challenges you can do, and even this segment with the worm here, chasing onto it, grappling onto it, and following it around. I'm honestly impressed the Switch 1 can handle this level of gameplay. I'll be curious to see how the performance stacks up later in the game, but on Switch, what I played, the demo, this seems totally feasible of a game to play, and it's really, really fun. So definitely the gameplay, if you're into that sort of idea. If you like Breath of the Wild and maybe add some hoverboarding elements to it, movement is one of my biggest things when it comes to games, and this game feels so good in motion, especially with the hoverboarding, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Number 3 reason why you might get this, kind of related to gameplay, but it's just like the sense of atmosphere and immersion this game seems to have. Similar to something like a Breath of the Wild, where you're going around and exploring your area, right? These areas are so vibrant and colorful, and especially because you can move so quickly from one location to another. And like, look at this, look at how fast you're moving. I think that makes it feel so much like, I don't know, more alive and like more fun to explore, at least for me personally. While there are also, you know, areas you can come across that are significant in these worlds to really explore and mess around with, you know? So that's honestly great to see. Let me restart the music here. And it's great to see that. So it's just really, really fun. I'm just going to loop this one, actually, so I don't have to do it again. Shout out again to the Star Overdrive Band for that music. But yeah, just the sense of atmosphere and immersion here, like the environmental effects, just like the feeling of the hoverboard is so good. I think there's a little bit of HD rumble when I was playing that I noticed, which was really cool. And just like, I don't know, this feels like a world I could just like spend hours going on the hoverboard around, stopping in an area, I see some enemies or a puzzle, and like exploring the way. So it almost feels like a Breath of the Wild that's maybe there's less to do in each area, but because you're traveling so fast on the hoverboard from each area, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like, the empty space is fun. And that's really hard to get right. And it's with the hoverboarding gameplay, like you can have all that empty space. I think if there was too much in the area with the hoverboarding segments, it would just feel like you're very stop and go, stop and go. But because there's so much space with the hoverboarding, and you could just skip around and then eventually find a unique, like, I think it works for this game. I think it's a really smart way to kind of branch out these specific areas where you need to solve puzzles or do combat. And I think that adds to the immersion even more. Like, this is really fun, and almost gives me like if any of you have seen Treasure Planet, like the opening to Treasure Planet where Jim's hoverboarding around, like gives me vibes of that, but like a full game with some combat, with some puzzle solving. Yeah, it just looks really, really fun, and it feels great to play in handheld mode on Switch, so I am definitely looking forward to how much this game will immerse me. Just the style is great. I love it. But that's the 3rd reason why you might get this. 4th reason is the customization abilities. You can kind of see some of it here with the different costumes. Our main character, I forget his name, they mentioned in the demo, the different costumes you can equip, and there's also a bunch of different boards you can equip. The Digital Deluxe version actually has a few exclusive boards and skins, cosmetic stickers, I want to say, that you can equip. So if you're into like board customization, especially like the Tony Hawk games or something, there are a lot of options here. From what I experienced in the demo, you spend a lot of resources to equip your board and upgrade and also customize it. It's like the more materials you use, the more powerful that one upgrade for your board gets. So that's really, really cool to see that. And you know, just that's kind of a fun thing, especially considering the hoverboarding is like the main gameplay that seems to be hooking a lot of people. And it's definitely a highlight for them. You know, it's fun to be able to customize your character and your board to, you know, how you want it to look. As you go through this world, as you're going to be looking at your character for, I imagine, many hours in this game. I imagine this is going to be quite a big game. Maybe not super duper long, but big enough to where you're going to be looking at your character in 3rd person for so long. It's good to have that customization to be able to make them feel like your own, which is super duper cool. It adds to the sense of style. It's really, really cool in that way. Final reason why you might consider getting this game is one that I always like to preach. It's supporting indies. Now, Caracal Games, I wanted to point them out. Dear Villagers has published a lot of games, but Caracal Games in particular, because they are the development studio, they've actually made a few different games already. There is Downward Enhanced Edition, which is on the Switch, Okunuka, and 2021 Moon Escape. Now, I looked up reviews for these, and they seem to score pretty good, like in like the 70s to 80s. Downward in particular was like a high 70s, and apparently got pretty decent reviews. So, you know, originally before seeing this game, I had not heard of the studio or even the publisher. I had no idea who they were. But, you know, originally I was going to be like, oh, if this is their first game, then it might be, you know, it's tough to know. But, like, they definitely have a pedigree with a few pretty decent games under their belt already. And this definitely, compared to their other games, seems like a very ambitious push forward. But, you know, studios have to take that leap sometimes to really make a hit. This could be a good hit on their hands. I mean, clearly Nintendo was confident enough to show it in their Nintendo Direct that they had last year. And it was in the highlight reel of the Switch 1 Direct we had a couple weeks ago as of this upload. So, you know, I think Nintendo has some confidence going into it. It looks like it'll be a really fun indie game, and you're supporting a small studio. You're supporting literally how many developers did they say they have? Let's go back to their website. They did not have a lot. Maybe they didn't mention About Us. Let's take a look. A 3-person indie studio starting in 2015. They're from Italy, I guess. Oh, based in Rome. Cool. Nominated Best Italian Indie Studio in 2016 to IVGA for the first game Downward. 2018, hardcore platformer Okunoka, multiple platforms. Best known for innovative and ambitious projects, including support for AA and AAA publishers like Gearbox and Wired. Oh, interesting. Oh, with titles such as Blanc and Martha said. I've heard of Blanc, actually. All active. Yeah. New consoles such as Traumatarium 2001. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so like this is really cool to see. Very literally 3-person indie studio that has plenty of experience already working in the industry, has some critically acclaimed games. You know, there is definitely a pedigree here. And like I said, they're definitely looking to ambitious new projects, and this seems to be their next one, almost taking on, I hate to keep comparing it to that Breath of the Wild gameplay, though, you know what I mean. It seems to be a very open world, probably a smaller open world with hoverboarding, and that to me is such a cool idea. I love the idea of hoverboarding in a game, and to be able to hoverboard over these vistas and everything and do all sorts of tricks and have all sorts of customization with some combat and puzzle solving sprinkled in. Like, this seems great, and so I'm happy to support this studio. Especially, you know, it's going to be tough because the Switch 2 is the big news right now, so it's going to be tough going into this. You know, it's releasing at a tough time. I'm actually going to switch back to their Gravity Damage song. I really like that one, except for the ad here. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a tough time to release this game, for sure. After all the Switch 2 news came out, and now, you know, we're finally seeing this game. I mean, this game was announced almost a year ago, or at least mentioned for the Switch. And it's a difficult time. So it's definitely a time where I would want to support indie games. And especially when you see like what's going on, at least in the US with the Switch 2, how expensive things are with the games and the system itself. And now, even because of tariffs, it's going to be even more expensive. So this is a great time to not only catch up on backlog games, but also to support indies. And this seems like a really good upcoming release that's going to be fun to mess around with and definitely keep you busy. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Just a quick recap in terms of why you might want to buy this game. First of all, the presentation, both the art style just being so vibrant, and like the music just being absolutely rocking, totally my vibe. Of course, second reason would be gameplay. If you like Breath of the Wild, if you like hoverboarding or just boarding in general, like Tony Hawk, you probably would get some enjoyment out of this game with some combat and puzzles in between. Number 3 reason is like the sense of immersion, the atmosphere, just like how much this game will suck you into its world, at least from what we can tell and what I played in the demo. Number 4 is the customization with both your character and the board to really make them feel like your own. And number 5, of course, is just supporting indies. We love supporting indies, you know? You're not supporting some massive corporation AAA studio. No, this is a 3-person studio who has made plenty of good games already, and now making a super ambitious game here with Star Overdrive, and at least this appeals a hell of a lot to me. It is coming out on the Switch on April 10th. It is coming to Steam at some point, but they haven't announced a release date for that. So this version is coming out first. And just to reiterate, like if you are sometimes on the fence like me about frame rate, if you're a stickler for frame rate, maybe you'll notice it. But if you're like me and I can go either way, this is a very good version to play as it is. I really enjoyed my time with the demo on the Switch, and I did not feel like the 30 frames was holding this game back in the slightest. So yeah, that's going to do it. I believe, just to mention before I end the video, it was I believe it was $30 in the US for the standard version, and $35 for the deluxe. However, there is a slight discount going on currently, like a 10% discount, like some of these indie games do, like right before launch and maybe even the day of launch. It ends soon though. Keep in mind, because the game literally comes out in 3 days as of this upload, so keep that in mind. With that, everybody, that's going to do it for this video, talking about some reasons why you might be interested in checking out Star Overdrive. Once again, April 10th, Switch. Be there or don't play it, I guess. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Are you interested? Are you going to pick it up at day one? Are you going to wait for this PC version? Are you not interested at all? I'm curious to know all of your thoughts. Otherwise, I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. And until then, keep on gaming.